concert with like 2-3 smaller songs. Yes, thank you. And Lavanya and Sharat, you can also ask.
I think it's a pretty incredible story that a French girl went and stayed in India for 10 years and learned from one of the greatest performers of Carnatic classical music. Uh, and she almost literally did what is called in India as Gurukula Vasam, which means you basically stay with the teacher for the duration of your education. And she literally did that. She stayed in India for 10 years and she imbibed this very ancient and very difficult art, I would say. So I think it's very, very commendable that the interest and the dedication that she is showing towards Indian classical music, Carnatic music, and I think she really should be encouraged and commended. So please give her all the very big applause.
I thought I heard that during the concert. Like, did someone say Sabash? It's a very common word of appreciation in India.
If you go to YouTube and look for T.M. Krishna, you will see several videos of this person. This is her teacher, and in several of the videos you will see her sitting behind him putting the drone for a lot of his concerts. So I think we are very happy that she's really upholding the tradition of this ancient art form. She is trying to make this an annual feature, come to the US and perform in several venues. This time, before coming to Arizona, she actually performed in Colorado in a few performances. And tomorrow she's going to be performing in Sedona, and the day after in Prescott. So please spread the word. She's somebody who needs a lot of encouragement. What she's doing, I think, is really commendable. For me and Lavanya, I would say it comes a little more naturally because the way we grew up is this was also part of our lifestyle. Just like we went to school, we were also put into music the same way. No questions asked, you know. No, and also no dissent broke either. So for somebody like Emmanuelle from so far away to really imbibe this music and come to this stage where she's able to perform so beautifully in front of people, I think it's fantastic. So yeah, please.
I'd be interested to know two things, or flip side of the same question. One, have you faced any resistance as a Westerner in India trying to adopt a tradition that's not part of your own ancestry? And the other side of that question, is there anything you found, like you said that your parents were classical Western musicians, was there anything that you found that you had imbibed as a Westerner that you had to kind of give up to embrace this style?
So just the first part of your question, do you mean did I get resistance from the Westerners?
No, from the
Indian.
From the Indians.
Well, so the most important thing was that my guru, my teacher, always like treated me as everyone else and never expected less of me because I was French. Many times I got these comments, don't think that because you're French I'm gonna let you get away with this. So he was, no matter what other people could think, he never gave any importance to the fact that I was a Westerner. Like he had to, because of me being a Westerner, there are many things that he had to adjust, like, look for different ways. And he put on a lot of efforts, like, in the beginning I had a little more explanation than the others because I didn't know anything and it was not my culture. And from the Indian, like, as a student, I mean, learning it was one thing, like being a student. And I think as a student, a lot of people were, at first I was just there for a few months, and then when they kept saying me over the years, oh, she's still here, I at the beginning I was just like a visitor, tourists, like, people were happy that I was interested in their culture, that I was willing to go all the way to India. But it's only after a few years that I, really had like a deeper connection that was less superficial, where people were like, okay, she's still here. She's still having gray hair, she's still here, okay, she must be serious. And there are, because my teacher has other students who are Indians, and so, we were just all the same, like, And then now that I'm performing, like, we never know what people really think. So, I'm not inside other people's heads, so I don't know. But mostly I get a lot of support, like Sharat, like express. Like people are, I think in India, they're happy that some people make effort to learn this amazing tradition, which is like such an ancient tradition that is still alive, which is kind of a miracle actually, that it's still alive, because there's so many people passionate about it. So I think mostly it's a good, I think some Indians might think, I don't know, that they cannot wait to see what happens next. To see if, I got to that level, I start to perform, but it's a long road, so it's really just the beginning. And okay, they're interested, and I think what comes in the next 20 or 30 years is gonna kind of more define, if this all was worth it. Like, am I able to keep going deeper and keep learning and keep not kind of stay at one level because I can't go further because I'm not Indian, because it definitely requires more work, like just for the language, because even the songs we sing, they're not all in language. Like, for example, it's not all your mother tongue, but it's close. It's and it's your culture. So for me, like, memory was a big thing where I have to keep working a lot, otherwise I just forget, because it's such a different language. And for all the improvisation, that's it just needs so many and many more years of practice, performing, class, and everything. It's kind of, listening is big. Like as Lavanya says, like being in India, like almost half of the training is to, there is class, formal class, when you learn songs, and then there is sitting behind your teacher. Like Lavanya is learning from this violinist who happens to be my teacher. They're really close friends, and they play most of their concerts together. So we sat, like many years ago, we sat together behind them, just absorbing. And so for 6 to 7 years, I spent, like, I was to all my teachers' concerts, always behind. So without even knowing, there's so much that has been absorbed, just by listening. So, listening to the music is a huge part. And to answer to the second part of your question, like, for me, like, so I started when I was 19, so I was not so young, I was not like 5 or 6, like, or like 8, 9, 10, like most people when they start learning this music. But I was not too old, that I had too much rigid, fixed ideas also. And I got trained in Western music, classical music, and it was fine, but I was not really good, or like, I didn't like solfa and all that. I never did so good, so it was not so strong in me, like, I kind of never really got so much into it. So like I got some really good, like the daily practice of music, and I was playing the piano, so I was able to have a good sense of shruti, of like the tone, because piano, it's like, it's set, so that was some good things like that. And there was not much like technical things that I had to overcome, like from my Western background, but like musically and all that. But I would say that what was the most difficult to overcome, and that's probably still still there, it's the Western mind, kind of just many things. But so even though I was relatively young, I was just finished school, so I wasn't having too many ideas about too many things, but there are things like we just function differently. And like my teacher had to be very patient because, for example, like, in the Indian language, at least in Sanskrit, I'm not sure in Tamil and Telugu, but there is like, for example, for us in France at least, there is one D, like, a day, or like, I don't know in English, maybe it's different, but, and there is the, like da, 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 da. So there's 4, varieties. And then there's the short vowels and the long vowels, e, all that. And so I kept, at the beginning, I used to write, the lyrics in English in my book. And so you have this thing where you put a line on the later when it's a long, you put a with a thing on top of it, ah. When it's a D, you put a dot under. If it's a D, you put DH. I mean, there's all those codes to translate it. But like for so many years, so at first my teacher would say, I would be in class and he would stop me. It's like, it's not da, it's, what I would hear would be, it's not da, it's da.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna act as if I understood, but I have no idea what's the difference. So at the beginning I would say nothing, and then he would keep like, because he would never let me sing anything that was not just right. So then it was like, it's not da, it's da. Okay. Then after a point I understand, okay, there is different thing. And then I realized that it took even more years so that I knew that there was a difference. Oh yeah, it's not da, it's da. Oh no, it's not da, it's da. And our guru, Shiram Anna, he's like even our consultant for lyrics, and like whenever I would be, my teacher would be, like I would be in class and then Shiram Anna would be hearing me saying something out of class, just saying the name of the word, and he would always correct me. It's not narada, it's whatever. It's not narada, it's like narada. And he would never let me even speak, every time he corrects me.
The right pronunciation by
Yeah. No, it keeps, but the thing is, even if I knew that there was a difference, in my mind, I was like, not consciously, but unconsciously, it was like, no big deal, da, it's almost the same, And then when I would sing in Tamil, like all the other students, sometimes they would laugh because I would just completely change the meaning of the song, and everybody would be laughing, and was like, what did they say again? And then, so it took me, even if I knew, like the fact to accept that it's actually it's completely different. That took many years. So I started, writing the lyrics in Sanskrit after a while, so that was the only way I could really, in my mind, I would, okay, that's a different letter, that's different. Then, I wouldn't be like kind of sloppy about it, whatever, like. So, like technically that was and then I think the most difficult thing, the most challenging is being a Westerner. So it's like, as I said, the Western mind is more like, all these things that that keeps going in my head, when I would, because I had to make an effort all the time, to like, my teacher is very demanding, so he would, like ask me to repeat the thing for an hour, or like, sometimes was not very patient anymore, and it was just like, just go home, I don't want to see you, just go back to France, And what I had to do was to not take things personally, And I realized at what point that the only way that I could go further in learning that music was to not take things personally. That is like, if I would sing something okay and he would say, which means it was good. I shouldn't get too excited. It's not like I'm so good, it's just that, okay. And then when he would be like, not happy with what I'm doing, not, it's not, I don't, at first I would be like always going home crying, like, I'm so bad, I never get it, I suck, I told you, from the beginning I suck, I'm just not good at anything, just, this whole drama was going on every day. And after what point my teacher was like, just, if I see one more tear, you never stay here ever again. Like, okay, so that was that was the challenging thing, and it's still, I'm still a Westerner, I'll always be, but there are things where I think it's really easier now, kind of, all those things kind of, in ability to, like, my teacher will always say, you're not listening to me, and I was like, yes, I'm listening, I'm doing nothing else, I'm here, I wouldn't say all that, obviously, but I would be thinking all those things, and then after a point, Sam, I realized, I'm actually not listening, because I'm too busy thinking too many things, or like, thinking that I did well, good, or I'm so bad, or so all those things which are like incredible, like even life learning things, like I just learned so many things about trying to be a little bit more present and paying attention and more clarity about things. So it's like everything is, it's like a big handicap to be a Westerner in this music, I can tell you. But in a way, it like pushes so much that it's learning, it's teaching so many things that it's worth it, whatever comes out of it, it's.
I'm curious what drew you in France to Carnatic music. It's a pretty exotic taste to come up, especially if you're raised in Western musical tradition.
Yeah. Well, I was raised in Western music tradition, but my father was actually the one who started being interested in that music. So that, I actually heard that music all, not like as much as these guys, but
You
I
didn't
heard
hear
it.
at home.
I did hear it when I was little, and I hated it. I really hated it. Whenever my father would play some Carnatic music, I just would beg him to stop this music. And and one day things change, obviously. and but
Did you find that it was also a kind of spiritual apprenticeship, learning the music? It seems to me that it's deeply intertwined with the spiritual attitude.
It's completely in whatever you said. I wouldn't be able to
Spiritual
repeat this word.
apprenticeship, yeah.
Intertwined.
Intertwined.
Intertwined, yeah.
Spirituality is a very inherent portion of Indian classical music, especially South Indian classical music or Carnatic music. Every single song that she sang today was about God in some form or another. Was about either the lady deity or the name God or Hindu gods and goddesses in different forms. So it's very very inherent. There is a Carnatic classical music is 100% devotional. There is nothing else in it.
Well, that's what's curious. So did you find it possible to tune yourself to really a Hindu viewpoint then?
Well, so even though I was familiar with the Hindu culture, because my father was going there when I was little, and then I went there when I was 15 for the first time, I didn't feel any connection with the gods and goddesses for a long time. Like at the beginning, I had no idea, who Ganesh was, who Krishna. I had a vague idea. I could see stickers on crazy people's cars in France or America, or some of my friends had these tattoos of big gods, and it's like they're just nuts, what's wrong with them? And so my teacher always told me in the beginning not to worry about the meaning of the songs, not to, because what touched me was I heard like a version of the music that was just what we call raga alapana, which is just improvisation that has no words. So it was not, oh, this talks about Krishna, about this god or this goddesses, I'm drawn to that. It was really the music that I got hooked by. And so it was really like a lot of people who often ask me, I hope you understand the meaning of the songs. And at first, I had a vague idea, but I really didn't pay attention to that. I was just really focusing on just learning what I was taught, and as close to perfection that I could, because in a way that's getting closer to God in some way, perfection. And it's after many years. It's maybe only since about 3 or 4 years that the mood starts to, evoke itself to me. But I never looked. I would look for the translation. I would hear things, because when we are in Chennai, there are different lectures all the times. You hear so much. You always. I was always traveling with my teacher, and he's a musician, and they always talk about whatever aspects of the music. So I had heard things, but it was not personal. It was not and without really looking for it, just when I was singing, I don't remember what song it was in the beginning, but I started feeling like a kind of a mood, and then I figured that, oh yeah, that's makes sense, with the lyrics of the songs. And so now, I start being, like the words, like being more and more drawn to, not knowing word by word exactly what it means, but it's more like Sanskrit's such a deep language, and in one word you can study it for like hours, so so it's and I get really drawn to that. So to the I've kind of absorbed the Indian culture also. Like now the god and goddesses, they're not some colorful picture that I see somewhere. It becomes more like living things. But for me, the access is through the music. Like that's.
Did you find you singing from the heart?
Did I find my singing from the heart?
Do you find yourself finally singing from the heart?
Well, I think it happens. It's difficult to say that, but that's the intention, I guess. And I don't feel always tuned, but there are definitely moments where yeah, you know, and it's like probably the efforts of the practice and then just the music, which is like, you know, doing its thing, you know.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that she has to overcome is say Lavanya or I are singing or playing or performing. For the most part, even though it's not our mother tongue, even if the song is not in our mother tongue, about 75% of the song we understand, and so automatically the feeling that is in the song, what is called as the bhava in the Indian classical music, which is the feeling or the mood or the emotion of the song, we get it much more easier because we understand the meaning of the song. And the more significant challenge she's had to overcome is to understand the meaning. In order to get that mood, and in order to do that, to understand the meaning, which in itself is the challenge that she was. So unless you understand the meaning, you don't get the mood of the song. So that was the circuitous route that she's had to, which is a very inherently challenging art form. Very, very, very difficult. Years of dedication. Any other questions for our French damsel?
Well, just a little information, which I just recorded the first CD like last month, and you know, if you're interested, it's for sale just on the table there. So if you'd like to take some home, just please. Yeah, so thank you for coming.
Thank you.